Balochistan has seen an on-off guerrilla campaign since the creation of Pakistan. There have been at least 3 unsuccessful guerrilla campaigns that were launched in 1948, 1958, and 1973. The most recent uptick in violence actually occurred after the killing of Nawab Akbar Bhutto in 2006, along with 35 of his colleagues. There are several nationalist groups that are active in a guerrilla sense within Balochistan, and their principal demands address a number of domains. Firstly is increased resources to deal with underdevelopment within the province. According to the World Bank, Balochistan, despite its abundant natural resources, has the weakest long-term growth prospects of any province within Pakistan. It also scores very low on key social indicators such as education, health, sanitation. Illiteracy is around about 60% in the province, and more than half of the population live below the poverty level. Another demand which we have heard today is greater share of royalties from gas production. Traditionally, Balochistan has not, the Baluchi population has not received a substantial share of those royalties because the federal government determines allocation based on population. And population within Balochistan is only 5% of the national population. Then there's the demand for a demilitarization within Balochistan. By 2006, according to US sources, there are at least 26,000 Pakistani military units within the province. And finally, there is a demand for greater participation in the future development of the port of Gwadar. As we've heard, that this is now under the full control of China. That award was passed in 2013. It's in its second phase of development. And the long-term aim is to link Gwadar to Western China with road, rail, and cyber links as part of the so-called China-Pakistan economic corridor. The Baluchi population are opposed to Gwadar, largely because they were never consulted in the initial plans for drawing up the facility, and also because they are being denied jobs at the port, while Punjabi and other settlers from other parts of Pakistan are being brought in to take up those locations. One of the most well-known groups within Balochistan is the Balochistan Liberation Army. It was established in 2000. Its ideology actually calls for a greater Balochistan state that encompasses the Baluchi areas of Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. But in reality, most of its objectives have focused on the local dimension. The size of the group remains unknown, and its leadership structure remains very opaque, though it's almost certainly closely tied to tribal affiliations. It targets components of critical infrastructure. It targets settlers from other parts of Pakistan that have come to Balochistan, and it carries out attacks against the security forces. As we have heard, in response, the Pakistani state has launched a highly draconian counterinsurgency campaign against groups such as the BLA. We have enforced disappearances, which are carried out with impunity, are rarely investigated. There are the targeted assassinations of nationalists that are either sympathetic to or active within rebel groups. This is carried out as part of a systematic policy of select, kill, and dump. And as we've heard, the passage of the Protection of Pakistan Act in July 2014 followed, as well as the constitutional amendment to the Army Act, as well as the Constitution that allows terrorist cases to be tried by military courts, could well increase the scope for future systematic abuses by the state and by the security forces against the Baluchi community. The second part of my comments, I want to highlight that tension and conflict within Balochistan is not solely related to the nationalist campaign against Pakistan, but there's also a very heavy sectarian dimension to what is going on. There are at least 3 Islamist groups that are based within Balochistan that have been at the forefront of militant activity both within the province, within Pakistan, and within Afghanistan. One is the Afghan Taliban. After it was driven out of Afghanistan, the Taliban leadership re-established itself in Quetta, establishing the Quetta Shura. That organization essentially acts and operates with the tacit and even explicit support of the Pakistani state. Pakistan essentially views the Afghan Taliban as a so-called good jihadi, essentially because it's seen as a strategic asset, in the sense that it, by supporting the Taliban, Islamabad hopes to establish a pro-Pakistani government in Kabul, which in turn will give it strategic depth in the event of a conventional war against India. Most of the Afghan Taliban's activities have been directed within Afghanistan, although it has targeted NATO trucks ferrying supplies to allied forces fighting in Afghanistan. Far more serious is Lashkar-e-Javangi, which was established in 1996 and follows the teachings of Nawaz Javangi. It's a Sunni sectarian group, highly anti-Shia. It has been at the forefront of sectarian violence in Pakistan for many, many years. It operates, its first major attack within Balochistan occurred in 2003 when three Sunni gunmen opened fire on a Hazara mosque in Quetta, killing around 56 people. Since then, the scale of sectarian violence attributed to Lashkar-e-Javangi has steadily increased, with 2012 and 2013 being the bloodiest years for the Hazara community to date. One of the worst attacks that the LEG claimed credit for were the simultaneous suicide bombings of a snooker hall in Quetta in a Hazara neighborhood that left 96 people dead. The operational leader of Lashkar-e-Javangi in Baluchistan is Usman Kurd. He's been active since 2002. He was arrested in 2006, but managed to escape from a highly secure military facility in 2008 under circumstances that the military has yet to adequately explain. He remains at large, and there is speculation that his release reflects that LEG operates with tacit support from the security forces. And certainly LEG has been recruited by the ISI to fight both in Afghanistan as well as the Kashmir area. And the final group that I'll mention, and then I'll wind up, is Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, the TTP. It was formed in 2007 as a result of a secret council meeting involving 40 commanders from the tribal belt. At its inception, it was a highly anti-Pakistani group. It was violently opposed to the military's launch of offensives to drive out foreign jihadists in Pakistan's tribal belt, particularly in north and south Waziristan. It has been responsible for about 90% of all suicide bombings that have taken place within Pakistan since 2007. Elements have relocated to Balochistan, and some of those elements have been complicit with Lashkar-e-Javangi in carrying out attacks against the Hazara Shia community. And that last point I would just like to finish with goes to the fallacy of the Pakistani policy of trying to support some jihadi groups while actively opposing others. As I said, TTP was violently anti-Pakistan, so it was viewed as a domestic security threat and as such as a bad jihadi group. Yet, Lashkar-e-Javangi has now, it's becoming increasingly clear, has made common ground with aspects of TTP. And as I said earlier, Lashkar-e-Javangi was viewed as a good jihadi group. And certainly the attack that was carried out on the military school of Peshawar in December 2014 has further demonstrated that the lines between what are so-called good jihadi and bad jihadi groups are very, very unclear at best. And with that, I'll finish my remarks. Thank you.